Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway on the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go. Always on the go.
All right, time for Coffee with Frankie. It's May 25th. It's Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend. This is the coffee. I am the Frankie. Let me know if you can hear and see me okay in the chat. Testing, testing, microphone testing. Let's make sure the audio is working okay. And see what we want to talk about on this Memorial Day weekend. It's Sunday. It's 10:03 a.m. on the East Coast of America. It's Memorial Day weekend, so a lot of folks have tomorrow off here in America, and so probably going to have light attendance in the old Coffee with Frankie show. But we'll see what we want to talk about as we move forward. JoJo is here. He's ready for some Frankie facts. Phil Adams is here from across the pond over in Great Britain. Audio visual 100%. Okay, good. So you can hear me okay. That's good to know. Let's get rid of this caption over here. Not a ton of stuff going on as far as the Jets are concerned. We're having OTAs. We'll have more OTAs next week. They continue. We'll get to hear from the coordinators next week. So hopefully, some of these dumb beat reporters will ask some questions we want to know about and get some answers or some non-answers, either way, but you ask the question. Joe Mike is here. Good morning to Joe Mike. Jojo says, not much to talk about. Yeah, but we did get 100% attendance, so that's a good thing. Everybody seems to be buying into Aaron Glenn and the coaching staff, so that's good. So not a lot of news. We'll see if in the next 7 to 10 days, June 1st is going to come around, and we are getting a bunch of cap space after June 1st. So we'll see if Muji and crew decides to spend it on some additional players. But that's really the only kind of newsworthy thing that's probably going to happen in the next, 10 to 20 days or so. course, the big story in the NFL remains when is Aaron Rodgers going to sign with the Steelers? It seems like that is going to happen, but has not happened as of yet. He's leaving. He's saying some cryptic things like he always does. Welcome to Aaron Rodgers' world, Pittsburgh Steeler fans. But otherwise, doesn't seem to be any news, at least as of this moment in this time. 10:05 hours, Sunday, May the 25th, 2025. 15-yard penalty is here. Yeah, he was leaving some cryptic notes, cryptic comments about this or that, but whatever. Joe Mike, what free agents? There's some actual impact free agents, Joe. Like Zadarius Smith would be a perfect one. I think Taven Bryan as a defensive tackle would be another one. We could always go after a safety, though we got a lot of mixing and matching and thing. We got a lot of players back there in our safety and cornerback and dime mix. And so I don't know. To me, Zadarius Smith would be target number one, or maybe a Jadeveon Clowney I would look at also. Remember, Jadeveon Clowney had an hour-long conversation with Joe Douglas when we were courting him the last time. 1 hour of conversation with Joe Douglas in his office, him personally, not the agent. And so they got along famously, obviously, and I think the Jets really wanted to sign him at that time, but he got a 2-year offer from Carolina at that time, and I think the owner, Woody, probably put the kibosh on and said, no, I'm not going to 2 years for that. But could he, obviously Joe must have been selling him on, the lifestyle in New Jersey, and because he's a kid from South Carolina, he's a guy from South Carolina or one of the Carolinas. And so I think Douglas was selling him on the lifestyle in New Jersey. Maybe it's more rural than you think. If you're into the hunting, the fishing, that sort of thing. And he was receptive to it. He said he had a great meeting. He loved that meeting with Joe Douglas. He said, his wife said, everybody said, the only reason he went to Carolina, they offered him a 2-year deal, and we offered him a 1-year deal. And he took the 2-year deal. So he could, he's a possibility, but I'd prefer Zadarius Smith myself. I'd prefer another defensive tackle. But we'll see. Phil Adams, will we have a center controversy? I don't think so, Phil. If you saw my comments on YouTube, on one of the breakdowns I did of Zach Rosenblatt's podcast, I don't think so personally, but it's not going to be a controversy. There's a competition at every position technically, but I think the media is blowing that up more than it needs to. Josh Myers was the 38th ranked center last year. He was the 38th best in the whole NFL. Remember, there's only 32 teams. He was ranked 38th. He's going to come in, and Joe Tippmann was ranked 8th in the league, and he's going to unseat him? I don't think so. But you never know. Hey, after all, Josh Myers did snap to Justin Fields in college, so there's that. But we'll talk about, we now have 2 beat reporters talking about this, so I think it's going to be a narrative, Phil. The thing about this is it's going to be a narrative because why? The beat reporters need controversy. They need something to talk about, and the Jets really don't have a lot going on from the drama perspective, so they got to make up something. So some people said Muji said there's going to be competition at center, and then John Simpson said something about it, so they're running with it. We're going to take a look at Rich Cimini's column here in a second. Like I said, there's not a lot going on, but even Cimini scratched out a column today, so I got to give him credit for that. Harlan Abrams here. Yeah, hit the like button if you would on the way in. I'd appreciate that. Joe Mike, what's your opinion on all these players changing jersey numbers? Well, they want to change their jersey number. Who cares, Joe? What gives? What gives them the power? They're allowed to. That's what gives them the power. Now, Will McDonald went back to his college number, so that's pretty cool. And, these guys, if they want to change their number, let them change their number. Maybe it'll change their luck. Who cares? It's up to them. It's their number. Harlan's here. So let's take a look. I mean, we got a couple of news items to take a look at, and then we'll do uh, chat room chit chat. If you guys have any other topics, we'll go through Samini's column. Then there's something about the CBA, and then we'll discuss any other topics that you want. And of course, as always, super chats cut the line. They go first, and of course, any members of the inner circle, well, all of your comments and questions definitely cut the line. So let's take a look. Let's share screen here. We're back in Restream. Also, I apologize for the surroundings back here. We're still in the midst of, renovating this room and getting it up to snuff to be a recording studio for the voiceover stuff. All right, let's take a look at this page here. Can we do this? Oh, yeah. Rich Samini, how the Jets are adjusting to the new coaching regime, roster, and culture. Boy, he's really trying to scratch out a column here. Imagine being Rich Samini and you got to write about this team right now. I mean, there's nothing going on. Gang Greener, when Aaron Glenn was hired as assistant coach from the Saints, somebody told him something. You can't be afraid of young players, Jeff Ireland said. The Jets are, so we're going to play young people. The Jets are turning a darker shade of green before our eyes. They only have 5 players entering their age 30 season or older. Tyrod, Thomas Hennessy, Alan Lazard, Jay Ray, and Zach Bailey. Zach Bailey is roster fringe. Keep in mind that rosters are fluid this time of year, but only one team has fewer age 30 and older players than the Jets per spot track, the Green Bay Packers. For the Jets, it's a stark contrast to last year when they opened the season with 12 players in that category, most notably quarterback Aaron Rodgers, C.J. Mosley, Tyron Smith, Morgan Moses. By the way, Morgan Moses had surgery on his knee in the offseason and has not been able to participate in any team activities so far for the Patriots. Something to keep an eye on our rivals. With old Morgan, sure, he'll be fine for the season, but then again, he's getting up there in age. Kicker Greg Zerloin and punter Thomas Morstead. They're all gone, including Devontae Adams, a midseason addition. And then a quote from Glenn who says, yeah, if they happen to be over 30, we'll get them, but no problem. In free agency, they targeted players coming off their rookie contracts, namely Justin Fields and Brandon Stevens, the most curious acquisition of the year. Strategy made sense. Samini says, generally, younger players are faster, less injury-prone, and coachable. That's an important element for an organization trying to rebuild its culture. There's Spinny McWhinney, Willie Mack. Growing into the job, speaking of Will McDonald IV, has gained 15 pounds. So he's putting on the poundage, and he may be over 250. There's a delicate balance. When a speed player adds weight, the last thing you want to do is compromise his best asset, speed. We're going to let him loose, Glenn said. We're going to let him go get the passer. That's what he does best. But McDonald finished with 10.5 sacks, but only 2.5 over the last 10 games. So that's kind of interesting little nugget there. He kind of started really strong, but then kind of faded over the last 10 games of the season. The extra weight may aid his endurance for the second half of the season. You can't flip a switch. There's a lot of happy talk emanating from One Jets Drive about the new culture, but this won't be an overnight process, especially for an organization that has finished in last place. So this is why we're in the ghetto. 7 of the past 11 seasons. Glenn knows this. In his previous stop, it took the Detroit Lions 2 full seasons before they flipped the script. Ohio State reunion. Wide receiver Garrett Wilson remembers watching the draft, wondering why teams were passing on Justin Fields. So that's good. You see Wilson smiling, big smile whenever they bring up Justin Fields. I do think they have a connection, so that's good. Number 5, no joshing. So this is what Phil was talking about, Phil Adams. When the Jets signed Josh Myers, it was widely assumed he'd be the backup. But Darren Muji spiced it up when he said he's going to compete to push Tippmann. Going to compete to push Tippmann. Sure enough, that competition's underway. Tippmann and Myers are battling their asses off now, John Simpson said. So this is going to be a talking point and a narrative for the media, but I don't really see it as a big competition myself. Cap relief. Now this is something important. Cap relief. Rodgers and Mosley both released in March with a post-June 1 designations. On June 2nd, the salary cap hit drops by over 20 million, making the Jets one of the leaders in cap room now. They will have plenty of now he says here, they will have plenty of flexibility to sign Wilson, Garrett Wilson, and Sauce Gardner. But of course, the flexibility on the cap has nothing to do with signing Wilson and Gardner. When you sign those guys, their cap hit generally goes down. But it does enable them to sign players if they want to, like Zadarius Smith, like Taven Bryan, like any one of the safeties that are out there, you know. Safety at home. Speaking of safety Andrew Sisko grew up on Long Island, and he watched a few Jets practices as a kid at Hofstra. Attended some home games with his mom. His favorite player was Mark Sanchez. Now, after 4 seasons, Sisko is in the New York area and enjoying the air. Living here has been natural, and the air feels better, he said. He wasn't referring to air quality. He meant the crisp mornings, which he missed in Florida. And it's pretty humid down here. The Jets hope Sisko can bring a playmaking element to their secondary. They haven't had that since Kerry Rhodes. Jets are pro-push, so we voted for the tush push over in the meetings. Hidden gems. When it comes to undrafted free agents, the amount of a player's guarantee often indicates how much demand he generated after the draft. Some perspective, not many players receive more than $200,000. The Jets doled out 3 relatively large contracts, according to Over the Cap. Guard, who can also play tackle, Leander Wygand. He's the international player, $249,000. This is probably the most interesting guy of the bunch. Defensive tackle Peyton Page, $201,500, and edge rusher and special teams ace Jamarcus Weston, $200,000. The Jets have a pretty good track record with UDFAs, typically keeping 2 or 3 on the final roster. With the new coaching staff, that number could rise this year. I would say the guy to watch is Leander Wygand. I hope he can really push Chuks Okafor off the roster. That would be my hope for him. He's a big, strong guy. He did like 38 reps at the combine. He played 1 year for UCF, so he has played, in a Big 12 college program. Then he went over to Europe and was coached by Hall of Famer Joe Thomas. So he has played college here. He is very strong. He got a big amount, and he's been coached by somebody who's been in the NFL. And he was an all-star in the European League. So all those things are good. Can he play? I don't know. Has anybody seen him play? But those are good things in his favor, something to hope for. Hopefully he can be better than Chuks Okafor and become a tackle guard backup for us. That'd be fantastic. Maybe he could become the next Jordan Mailata. Going back, former Jets GM Joe Douglas has landed a scouting position with the Eagles, his former team. Former coach Robert Saleh and former interim coach Jeff Ulbrich were also hired by their previous teams, the Niners and Falcons respectively. And remember, people like Adam Gase, not in football. People like Nathaniel Hackett, he didn't get hired by anybody. So, you see these people get hired, you know that they're not complete morons, at least when it comes to that. All right, let's take a look at the chat. Captain K Techno became a member. Level, the inner square. We got the inner circle. We got the inner square. We got the inner triangle. We're going geometric in this bitch. So, Captain, good to see you. Welcome aboard, my friend. Greetings to everybody. Good to see you again. Jojo says, interesting how Fields has a camera on his helmet. Yeah, that's the first time we've been doing that. Oh, so let's stop screen share with that. Yeah, that's the first time we're doing it, Jojo. So maybe we'll actually have coaches who want to do coaching. Imagine that. Imagine having a coaching staff that actually wants to coach people up instead of the lazy bums we had here before. Well, some of them were lazy anyway. Brooklyn is here. Would love to see Malachi, A. Smith, and Wilson on the field at the same time occasionally. Well, why not? Why wouldn't we see that, Brooklyn? I say that anything's possible, my friend. Jojo Townsell, any info on the new hire in the front office? Yeah. Bird Sherrill, very highly regarded, used to be with the Lions, then went down to the University of Florida, And Billy Napier, the head coach of Florida, spoke very highly of him. Work he was doing, he was working, I think, primarily on the um, transfer portal, which is essentially the college version of the free agency, if you think about it, right? The transfer portal is sort of akin to free agency in a way. So these days, so is a good solid hire, no doubt about it. Phil Adams not even going to the game in London, London Town, Tottenham Hotspur. We've got a grass field. Would you like to use it, NFL? No, 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 no. Give us the artificial turf. Thank you. Are you sure? When we play football, what you call soccer, the players won't play unless it's real grass. Oh no, our players are a bunch of dummies. We'll play on anything. Thank you very much. Speaking of dummies, let's talk about Roger Goodell. He's not a dummy. But the CBA is coming up. Let's go to this. Roger Goodell hints that the next CBA will address owner concerns about the cap system and rising costs. Oh my goodness. Rising costs? What? This is what they're concerned about? What? Super yachts ain't free, says Mike Florio of Pro Football Tickety Talk. Super yachts ain't free, man. They cost a lot of money. So we can't be having all these costs with these football teams. During Commissioner Roger Goodell's press conference to cap this week's ownership meetings, he was asked about potential discussions about the salary cap and the collective bargaining agreement. And a new deal can be done in theory at any time. But Goodell says there are no formal plans on any discussions. We obviously continue to be in close communication with the union on a variety of matters, but no start of negotiations has been set or are under consideration really at this point. We did spend time today talking at length about areas of our CBA that we want to focus on. The two areas we spent time on were really the cap system itself, the integrity of that system, how it's working, where do we need to address that in the context of collective bargaining, where does that happen? This was a very lengthy discussion. Now, hopefully, the players' union is going to stand up for itself and stop being a bunch of pussies and actually threaten to miss a season, which is what they really need to do to get what they want. It's very tough for them to do because they don't have long careers like in baseball and basketball, but that's what they need to do if they're going to get what they want. What do they want? Well, for example, they could want more bye weeks. They could want scheduling concessions such as if we're going to play on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, then you don't play the previous Sunday. And for that to happen, you need multiple bye weeks in the context of the schedule, and you need to lengthen the total schedule for the whole league. For an example, or if you want all grass fields, for example, and you want that in the you're gonna have to bargain for it. Do they have the balls to stand up for themselves? We're going to find out. Or are they going to cave like they always have in the past? I think that the players' union is a lot more powerful these days than it has been. Is it powerful enough to where they can actually threaten to sit out the season and get what they want? I don't know. That's what we're going to have to find out. The second is just the rising cost, the cost of stadiums, the cost to facilities, the cost of operation, the cost of investment, and how dramatically that's impacting the ownership view. Costs are out of control is what they're saying. These stadiums cost too much. They got to be maintained. See, this is why this right here goes to the heart of the grass field situation. I think Goodell's getting ahead of it. It's like these stadiums cost too much already. This is him getting ahead of the grass argument, grass versus artificial turf. It costs too much already, and if we put grass in some of these things, it's going to make it go up. We can't do it, is what their position is anyway. So I think both of those could form what I would call our priorities. So they're going to say, look, you want that? Fine, but you got to give us the 18th game. You got to give us a lot of concessions Going into negotiation whenever that occurs, so that was the extent of our discussion today. The 18-2 format did not even come up because everybody already knows they want 18-2. And if I'm the NFLPA, I say, yeah, sure, you could have it. Here's what we want, and we're not budging, and we're ready to sit out the season. Screw you, if we have to. This is how it starts. With fewer than 5 years to go before the current CBA expires, the league is signaling its eventual objectives. Goodell seems to be saying that the owners are considering whether the current split of revenue between players and owners possibly isn't working. Here's the basic reality. The owners learned that in 2011, when push comes to shove, the players will do a deal. They'll huff and they'll puff, but they won't miss game checks. And that's the point. This is the key point in this whole thing. This is the key point. If you're not willing to go to the mattresses, you will lose. This is a war, and you need to come to battle with the right ammunition. You're not going to go to war with savvy business people, with a Mr. Nice Guy routine. That doesn't work. Not with these owners. They're sharks out there. And it says they don't have the leverage. With the salary cap not at 279.2 per team, some owners surely think that too much is being spent on players. Too much being spent on players. That, as the NFL continues to make more and more money, the players no longer need half, perhaps, is what they're thinking. It's one thing for the NFL to make record revenues. It's another thing to turn those revenues into maximum profits. And it's safe to say that more than a few owners could be thinking that an ongoing explosion in cash may be getting to the point at which the franchises should be retaining more than half of the money. Well, if nothing else, the NFLPA is on notice. Yeah, they are on notice. And hopefully the new leadership has gigantic balls. That's what you need to fight in this war. You don't need to cave like a bunch of pussies. The owners could end up plotting a hard bargain that will convert unlimited payments based on percentages to fixed numbers that will look great on paper, but that will keep more total cash in the owners' coffers. And maybe that's true, but maybe you could get concessions like getting rid of the franchise tag, for example. That's something the players hate. Get rid of that crap. Get rid of all these tags. There's different kinds of franchise tags. Get rid of all of them. Get us to market faster. So there could be ways to find wins on both sides. But you need to not come into a gunfight with a bunch of plastic knives. At the end of the day, what will the players do about it? The owners could be ready to make an all-in bet that they'll blink again. Let's hope not. Let's hope the NFLPA has learned from its past. Now they have new leadership at the union, and hopefully that new leadership is going to learn how to learn from the past. But we'll have to see. So this is something that's probably going to become more and more of a story as the years go on. They're 5 years out now, and so it's a little bit far away, but this is the start, and as the years roll on, it's going to get closer and closer, so you'll get more and more stories. You'll get the NFLPA putting information out. You'll start to see them trying to position themselves relative to the public and getting public opinion on their side and how they do that and all of that. So we'll have to see about that. Flatbush Dre is here. Good to see you, Flatbush Dre. Phil Adams, how about limiting the money owners can take out of the teams? No, you can't do that. And the owners really don't take money out of the teams. The thing about the teams is they're not really cash cows. Now, the stadium operations and things of that nature may be different. But the teams are not really cash cows unless and until they sell. Then they're big cash cow. But what you're seeing is that a lot of the teams are selling a small percentage of the shares and getting cash that way. So for example, what you saw the 49ers do this week, right before they signed Brock Purdy, they sold, I think, about 6.5% of their team. They got a bunch of cash in, and then they gave it to Brock Purdy, basically. And when you have a contract like Brock Purdy or one of these big giant contracts, that you do need cash, and that cash goes into an escrow account. So you can't even get interest on the cash. So you know uh, but that is something actually that I wish Woody Johnson would do. You can sell these little parts of the team. You still are the majority owner, but then you get cash in that transaction, and then you can use that cash to improve the team, like the 49ers just did by signing Purdy, and they signed, Fred Warner and a couple other guys. They kept their core together. They got like a 2-year window now with this current team. They basically, 49ers, basically what they told you this offseason is, we got a 2-year window here, and they think that Robert Saleh is a defensive genius. That's what they told you with all their moves. Phil says 1 preseason game, 18 games, 4 bye weeks, no team. Yeah, all this kind of stuff. But I mean, 4 bye weeks. They're talking about 2 bye weeks being a negotiating point. I would start it. I would start the negotiations at 4 and settle on 3. They're going to have to fight just to get 2 for some reason. I don't understand why the NFL doesn't want to lengthen the season. Some of the broadcast partners have said that they think lengthening the season leads to a diminishment of some of the inventory of games. I don't see how that's the case. Longer season is just better for everyone. There's more football on. If you think about the end of football season is a terrible time in sports if you think about it. Like when the Super Bowl's over, there's that period of time when there's nothing going on. There's like college basketball and, I guess the NBA is going on, but it's like the middle of the season, the start of the season. Nobody cares. There's nothing going on significant until like March Madness. So the NFL could really lengthen that out, and I think everybody would be happy with it. Even the broadcast partners, even if they don't think so at the moment. I think we as the viewing public want more football, more weeks of football overall than less. I mean, that time, actually, the time when the championship games are over, leading up to the Super Bowl, then the Super Bowl happens. That's a big event, obviously, and then there's nothing. But all that time, other than the day of the Super Bowl, is like a dead period in Americans. Well, in the sports world. Uh, and so I think they should just push that out and just continue to dominate more of the calendar myself. But to do that, they need more bye weeks. And I think more bye weeks would lead to better games because you'd have healthier players and fewer star players being injured. That's a thing that nobody ever talks about is the fewer star players you have injured, the better the product is for television and everything else. Rooting interest, betting, fantasy, etc. You want your star players, as many as possible, playing and not injured. Nobody ever talks about that. And I think, you go to grass fields, you give more bye weeks, you put in these structural schedule things where you can't play a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday game after a Sunday game. If you're going to play one of those days, then you have to have a bye week the previous Sunday. All of that would dramatically decrease the amount of injuries that you have, and then therefore the fewer stars that would be injured that people want to see. People want to see the stars. They don't want to see scrubs. Otherwise, if they just want to see any old football game, otherwise the UFL ratings would be through the roof, and they're not. Nobody wants to watch the UFL. It's garbage. Nobody wants to watch the European League, the ELF, the European League of Football. They have a European League, the Rhine Fire and the Paris Mutineers or whatever the hell they're called. Nobody watches this crap and it's the same game because if you do watch one of those games, the level of play is so far down. It's unbelievable. And so people want to watch the best. And when somebody gets injured, when Aaron Rodgers gets injured and has an Achilles, that hurts the entire league. When these stars go down, it's terrible for the whole league. And people don't really talk about that. But I think that would be some kind of a point that I would make if I were the NFLPA. Look, keeping our guys healthy is good for you, Goodell. It's good for the ratings. It's good for all of the sort of subsidiary, the auxiliary stuff that goes along with football, like fantasy football and all the betting that goes on now. Um, so I think that's a point that they can make. Like, yeah, we want this in the negotiation, but it also helps you. It also helps generate more money. It helps you generate better ratings on television, and the television ratings are the driver, for the most part, of almost everything with football. Not maybe not almost everything, but a huge driver. And if those ratings ever go down, they're in trouble, and they're actually starting to go down. Hank G is here. I made the same argument about more buys on another show before. The counter argument, ironically, was that the players wouldn't agree to it. I don't think so. No, I think if you told them, look, we need all these breaks in between. Now, some players may not, but if you told them we're going to keep you, you're going to have fewer injuries, which they clearly would, they would opt for that. These guys, when they get injuries, are the worst part of football, and it's the scariest part of their careers as far as longevity goes. So these guys have to start thinking about the longevity of their careers. Why do the baseball players and the basketball players, for example, have guaranteed contracts? That's another point of contention with the union. Why do those leagues have 100% guaranteed contracts? As soon as you sign, you get all the money, no matter what happens with some, some, like, you can't go jet skiing and weird crap like that. But for the most part, if you don't do any weird stuff, you're getting all the money no matter what happens. You get injured the next day after you sign it, and you're never play another game of baseball, you get all the money you signed for in your contract. But the football players can't have that because they get injured too much. There's too much risk on the owner's side. So if they could stay healthier, you might even get more guarantees in your contract, which is even better. So number one, you're not getting injured, and nobody likes to be injured, and rehab is grueling. But then it also diminishes your career earnings because you're not going to have as long of a career, and you might be able to get more guarantees in your contracts because then the average say lifespan of a player in the league would increase, and then maybe the owners would be more willing to give more guarantees in the contract. So I think anybody thinking this way is sort of thinking short-sightedly. And sure, some of the players might not like having to have 2 or 3 weeks eaten into their offseason, but you could also restructure the offseason so that there's more time off immediately after the season ends, and then a tighter grouping of OTAs. Like, why do we have all these sporadic OTAs? Like, there's 3 days here and 3 days there, and then another 4 days. Like, why is that? That doesn't make any sense. Why not just group them all together and just sort of start earlier? Maybe with one break in between or something like that. So there's definitely ways to structure things in the offseason to make the players happy and to give them. I mean, if you make the case that, look, if you guys would start staying healthier and we're going to do these 5 things, the grass, all these 5 things, and if we can get the average length of career out to, instead of what it is now, whatever, which is about 3.5 years, I think, if we can get that thing out to 7, 8 years or something, then the owners might feel more comfortable with more guarantees in the contract, which is better for everybody in a standard contract, a second rounder, third rounder, these type of things. So I think there's ways to do it, and hopefully Lloyd Howell is smart enough to do so, Hank. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. Indy Jets is here. Says good morning to all. Spin Max is here. Yeah, Spin Max says 3 to 4 weeks helps everyone, including the fans. Yeah, I think so, Spin Max. I mean, think about it. Like, the NFL season is a grind also. Like, every week, like, those bye weeks are nice, even for the fans. Like, oh, we get a breather. We're not playing this week. Whew, good. Either if you're hot or you're struggling, whatever it is, sometimes you need a break. Like, it's a grind. Think about it. The game's on Sunday, and then you got to watch. You got to catch up on all the other relevant games that you want to watch and figure out what happened. Then the Monday night game, then the Sunday night game. Then all of a sudden it's Tuesday. There's a little bit of a breather, but then Wednesday comes and the first injury reports, and then Thursday injury reports, and Friday injury reports. Then it's Saturday, and who's getting called up from the practice squad? Now it's Sunday again, and the game, and we got another game. And then that's every week. That's a grind. Even for a fan, even though it's an enjoyable grind, it's a grind. It's a grind. So wouldn't you rather have 2 or 3 or 4 times where you get a little breather and to reassess and say, all right, let's watch some of these other teams. Let's watch some of these other bums. We watch our own bums every week. Let's watch some of these other teams. Let's watch the Dolphins. Let's watch the Patriots. Let's watch the Bills. See what's going on. See what's going on. Indy says, how many Knicks fans in the chat? Yeah, you got to feel bad for the Knicks. They're not playing well at all in this series. They're down 0-2, Indy, and they're playing tonight to see if they can salvage the series, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be possible. I watched a little bit of the Knicks. Boy, I do not like their style of play at all. Boy, is it boring. I am not a basketball fan, Indy, I'll tell you that. I tried. I watched it. It doesn't seem like they're having much fun out there, I'll tell you that much. Looks like they're going through a root canal while they're trying to play. That's not good. Beast Say Salami says, finally made it. All right, well, welcome in, Salami. Jojo. Yeah, exactly, Jojo. That's what I think. They could stretch it. There's nothing else going on in the whole sporting world. Why wouldn't the NFL want to dominate the calendar, basically? You know? More inventory is better. That's the way I see it. PC says, I keep spacing out on the start time for some reason. I don't know. Put a big reminder next to your computer, PC. Coffee with Frankie, 10 a.m. Sunday. Just put a big sign and hang it with a piece of tape. 10 a.m. Sunday. Get the coffee ready, everybody. You guys see that Billy Joel put out a new song last year? Did you guys know? Tell me in the chat if you knew that Billy Joel put out a brand new song last year. And nobody told me. By the way, I don't know if we got Billy Joel fans in the chat. I just found out the other day that Billy Joel, after 31 years, put out a brand new song. You guys know that? Let me know in the chat if you knew that. SpinMax says, how far out would you push the NFL season? I don't know. Just work it out. You could go all through March if you really needed to. Depends how many bye weeks you're able to get. I would have as many bye weeks as I could get if I'm the players. Because recovery, remember, for football, the other thing about football is, and really all sports, but football, it's the most pronounced. Recovery is the biggest thing. Recovery. It's the hardest thing to get your body to perform, and the wear and tear over time, eventually you get injured. The straw that broke the camel's back. How can a straw break a camel's back? It's a straw! Well, the camel's back was breaking from all those loads it was carrying previously, and then finally the straw broke it, right? Same thing in football a lot of times. Sometimes not, but a lot of times it's just the wear and tear, and then finally one final thing, boom, and then you have an injury. So having more bye weeks allows for more recovery, and these guys should all be into that. And then so how many ever bye weeks you can get, stretch it out. There's nothing going on in the sports calendar until March Madness, and even that isn't really a threat to NFL football. And even March Madness is really just a few weekends of like crazy amounts of college basketball games going on, and then it kind of dwindles down as they get closer and closer to the end. So I don't know. It depends how many bye weeks you can get out of it. I'd try to go for all of the ones. Hank G said I did not. Yeah, he's got a new song, Hank, and I got to tell you guys, it's really good, and the video is amazing, incredible. Jojo says new album. No, he does not have a new album, Jojo. He said he's open to maybe putting out a new album. Now, for those who don't know, his last album was called River of Dreams, 1993. He put out his last album in 1993. That's a long time ago. And he didn't put out any new music really until last year. And he put out this song and video. You got to watch this video. on you. Just go to YouTube. The song is called "Turn the Lights Back On." It is phenomenal. It's a phenomenal song, but it's an even better video. Wait till you guys see this video. Phil says, Bill, not yet. Billy, yeah, he has some issue. He had to stop touring, but hopefully he can recover. I was reading about it. What he has, you can recover from. So hopefully he can recover and maybe do some new music and maybe do a new album. Harlan says, I'm not a Billy Joel fan. Well, I feel bad for you, Harlan. He's one of the musical geniuses of the last 4 decades. Hank G, but I also didn't know that he was still alive. Well, yeah, he's still alive, that's for sure. Jojo says, yeah, he performed it. Yeah, he did. That I found out that. But you guys didn't even tell me that he had a new song out, Jojo. How do you know all this stuff? You don't tell old Frankie. What's up with that? Somebody need to tell Frankie. And the Beatles put out a new song. By the way, the Beatles also put out a new song last year and a new video. And they tried to kind of do something similar in their video the way that than the as to the Billy Joel video, and they totally screwed it up. And the Billy Joel song is so basically they took like a demo from John Lennon that he had laying around somewhere, and they crafted it into a new Beatles song. But it's cartoonish and demo-ish. It's not nearly as good as the Billy Joel song. PC says, well, it's 10 p.m. for me here, making spacing much easier. Where are you, PC? It's 10 p.m.? What? Where the hell are you? New Zealand? Where the hell is PC Salami located? Freaking Australia? Boy, we got Frankie people all over the damn place. But yeah, posted by Monitor would do it. Yeah. Yeah, the offseason, I know, there's not a lot going on, right? It's kind of hard to scratch out some content. 2 bye weeks be enough. 2 at least, Indy. I go for as many as I can get. I want 4, but whatever we could get. Hank G says, yeah, check it. If you're a Billy Joel fan, Hank, you will love this song and you will love this video. I was thinking about playing it on here. Sometimes we turn this channel into K-Frank. K-Frank, better than K-Rock. Playing the music Frankie likes. I was thinking about playing it, but of course I'll get a copyright hit. Not that I care about that. But I didn't know if we had many Billy Joel fans in the chat, Jets need to, yeah. Yes, Joe, they do. And if you listen to that song, yeah, if it's the thing about the song is it fits. You could listen to it and you probably will have a personal connection to the song because the lyrics, the way he sings it, you could apply it to anything. You could apply it to the Jets. You could apply it to some lost love that you've had. You could apply it to. I could apply it to this channel. Remember, I used to have a channel, and then I turned the lights off on it, and then I turned the lights back on to this channel. And one of the things he says in the song is, "Did I wait too long to turn the lights back on?" And that's something I wonder about this channel sometimes. But that's what's beautiful. That's when you have a great song, right? When somebody writes a personal song that has universal appeal. It's like when you're writing about yourself as a songwriter, and then so many people say, "Oh, he was singing that about my situation with this." And it's like, no, but that's what great art does, right? You write a personal thing that becomes universal, and I think this song does it. But that's just my opinion. Indy says Asia's somewhere. PC, I'm in Asia. Well, where in Asia? We got people in Asia watching the Frankie show. We got people all over the place. You know that? We got people in New Zealand. We got people in Australia. We got people in Asia. They're all over the damn place. All right, PC, we got you. You're in Asia. All right. Joe Mike, Billy Joel, River of Dreams, Jets football team of dreams. Yeah, well, sure. New Zealand must be 3:45 a.m. Man, I'm not good with the international times. B. Trav is here. The show behind the mic had Joel's story. Very good. He's ripped off and disrupted. Yes, he certainly was. Made a huge comeback worth finding. Yeah. But that's the general idea. But if you go back, and I don't know, this hit me pretty hard too, because coincidentally, I was just kind of like rediscovering some of these Billy Joel songs and just kind of marveling at how good they are just from a technical perspective. And it's a weird thing because we're all very familiar with Billy Joel music. We've heard the songs a million times. So you kind of get a little tired of it. It's like, oh, good, Billy Joel song, Big Shot, oh, no. But if you go back and you just listen and you just say, okay, take the Billy Joel thing out of it and just listen to the songs, they really are quite remarkable. And he has a lot of them. And I have a thing about musical stars, like how many unskippable songs do they have? Like even an artist like Prince or Michael Jackson or anyone you want to name, how many songs do they really have that are unskippable? Every time they come on, you don't skip it in a playlist. And I think you'll find a lot of these superstar artists, they maybe have 5, 6, 7 unskippables. And they'll have a lot of good ones. But Billy Joel's got a lot of them. And that to me is really something. Because it shows like the ability to do it again and again and again and again. It's hard to come up with a classic and unskippable. It's hard to come up with a Purple Rain. It's hard to do. It's hard to write a scenes from an Italian restaurant. I mean, that song is remarkable. But anyway, Spin Max. Back to OTAs. Which new player you most excited about? Well, I don't know. I have no idea. How am I? They're throwing. They're lobbing balls in the rain. Spin Max. What do we? There's nothing to get excited about yet. So I've put out a series of videos, Spin Max, in case you've seen them or not. I put out a video about Malachi Corley being a sleeper on the offense. I put out a video on Arian Smith's role. I put out a video about how Justin Fields will probably be used. I'm more interested in that at this point. What's the schematics? What are we going to do? How are we going to use these people? And then once we know that, then we can start looking at their performance within that context. The defense, I really don't understand yet, and I have to see what's going on in terms of who we signed, who we drafted, who we didn't draft, and how they're going to be used. But at this point, it's hard to say, Spin Max. Yeah, that's the thing, JoJo. And like, it's weird that one of the greatest musicians of all time didn't put out a new song for 31 years. 31 years. And the last song of the last album, his last album was called River of Dreams. The last song on that album was called Famous Last Words. And that was the last song he ever recorded for 31 years. And if you know the chorus to that song, it's like, these are the last words that I have to say. And it goes on like that. PC, one question. Do you have inside source on Jets' new offense? Or is it based on an intelligent analyst would believe? I got sources, PC. Because the coaches may not do the smart thing. I got sources on sources on sources. No, as far as this new offense, I'm just guessing based on the skill sets of the players that we have. So if we don't run an RPO heavy scheme, I did that video on Justin Fields where the Steelers were running about 5% RPO plays. I think that was pretty stupid myself. So RPO light, they ran RPOs, but only about 5% of the time when he was starting. So I think we're gonna run 30 to 40%, something like that, a very high percentage. But we'll run lots of other plays also. It's not just RPOs. But we'll see. We don't know. The coordinators are going to talk to the media this week. We'll see if any of the beat writers have the balls to ask them what we're going to run. Not that they would tell them, but the question should be asked. No, I don't have any inside sources that I'm going to tell you about anyway. We didn't start the fire. Yeah, that's another classic. I mean, there's so many classics he came up with. Hank G. From Flatbush to the whole world, we are glad you turned the lights back on. Well, you are, but the interesting thing about it is, and that song really made me think about it, Hank. It's crazy how good this song is. I can't wait for you to listen to it. Let me know what you think next week once you listen to it. But it really, because that old channel, I had thousands and thousands of subs. Look how many subs I have now, 600 something. So it's like maybe I waited too long to turn the lights back on, kind of like Billy. Billy waited too long. He asked the question, did I wait too long to turn the lights back on? Meaning create new music. And I think the answer is yes. I mean, we're the audience. We love Billy Joel. We would want new Billy Joel music, even if it's like collaborative music. Like do a collaboration with Sting, do a collaboration with Mick Fleetwood, do a collaboration with, somebody, John Popper. Do a collaboration. If you don't want to write the whole thing yourself, or you just want to have fun, get together with some of your buddies, musical buddies, and put out. We would love it. So I think yes, Billy, you waited too long to turn the lights back on, in my opinion. I mean, it's up to you. You gave us so many good songs. It's crazy. So you can't argue with that. I mean, you can't criticize a guy who put out so much good music over the years, but still, 31 years. It's a little long. I mean, think about it. He's 76 now, so he stopped putting out music at age 45. 45 he was. That's a baby. Age 45, I'm done. You got everything out of me. I got nothing else left to say. I got nothing else left to say in 31 years. Phil Adams, Frankie in the USA, Ireland, Taiwan, all around the globe, UK, you name it. Everybody loves the Frankie in small doses. He mentioned his daughters inspiring him to write again. Yeah, he actually, for this new song, JoJo, he said he met with a producer who he thought was a fan, and he was doing a favor to his doctor or something. And the guy actually was a music producer and music writer, and eventually got him to give him some of the demos that Billy Joel had sort of sitting around like bits and pieces, sitting around. And he listened to the demos, and then they kind of collaborated and worked on it. But his daughters make an appearance, of course, in the video as well. This video is so good, you guys. Even if you don't like Billy Joel music, this video is incredible. I'm telling you, I have a high bar. You're going to watch this video and go, wow, that was incredible, I think. Indy Jets, Frankie, the D will be a lot like Rex Ryan D. So we're going to a 3-4, Indy? Is that what you're telling me? So we're going to 3-4, cornerbacks out on an island. So we're going to man coverage. So all you need to do is run some man beaters against us. And that's it. That'll be a bad defense. Let's hope not. Let's hope not, Indy. Can't get the vision of boatloads of ladyboys invading Taiwan out of my head. I don't know what you're talking about. PC, thanks for clarifying that, because your perspective makes sense. But so many coaching staffs make poor decisions. Yeah, they do. I mean, but hopefully we got smart ones now, smarter ones. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why we would acquire Justin Fields and then make him do things that he's not used to. So, like, this is actually a good point, PC. We acquired Justin Fields. It was the number one priority for the offseason, and Aaron Glenn obviously spoke glowingly of him. If we get him and we do not utilize his skill set in the way that it should obviously be used, then we have another coaching staff that's no good. Let's just put it that way. That's the first test. If you get a Justin Fields, you make it a priority. You give him a lot of money to come here, not a tremendous amount, but relative to, what he's accomplished so far. Then that would be the first indication that we don't have a great coaching staff again, and that sucks. So I think that's something to look at, and I think that's something to keep an eye on. You didn't wait 32 years. Indy Jets, bad defense. Rex D was top 5. Yeah, the first 2 years. What happened to the other 4, Indy? No good. And also, so what happened with the Rex Ryan defense, for those who don't know? Yeah, we were great the first 2 years he was here because we had amazing talent. The last 4 years, it started sliding back. And then when he got to Buffalo, the defense had gotten figured out. So, having a 3-4 man-to-man defense where all you really need to do is run a lot of quick game, and there's very easy ways to man beaters, very easy ways to beat it. It got figured out, and when we didn't have a incredible talent on the team, on the defense as a whole, it started to fall back, and then by the time we got to Buffalo, everybody had figured out Rex Ryan, and then he's never. There's a reason why Rex Ryan hasn't been back in the NFL since whatever year that was, and it's because everybody figured his defense out. It was great his first year. It was really, really good his second year, and then it started to fade as people figured it out. So that's the way it is. I agree that would be the first test in evaluating the staff. Yeah, yeah. I think that's the first test because it just seems to make sense to me that if we're going to ask, Justin Fields to do things he's not comfortable with, then again, we just have bad coaching again. Spin Max says, not many older famous artists write music. Yeah, it's true. It's a conundrum because you get to a point where you have so much money and you have so much time that there's no constraints on you. Like there's no constraints on Billy Joel. He could do whatever he wants, and that's a problem for an artist. An artist who can do whatever he wants is generally a problem. It's another theory of mine where constraints really uh, help an artist, even though the artist doesn't like it. It helps the art. Time is the best constraint. Like if the record label is saying we need an album, then you don't sit around forever going, well, we could tweak this. What about putting in a flute solo? The record company says we need an album. Then you're just like, all right, it's done, get it, goodbye. And you do the best you can, and it usually comes out better that way. And look at all these artists who don't do well after they have total freedom. Prince was a lot worse after he got out of his Warner Brothers contracts. Billy Joel stopped recording music. Look what happened to Paul McCartney. Hasn't had a good song in 40 fucking years. When has Paul McCartney put out a good song? When? Since 1970. So these artists who have all this money and all this time, it doesn't help the art, in my opinion. Indy Jets. Rex lost the top cornerbacks, and then that D doesn't work. Sure. Think what you want. I'm sure that him being out of football for 40 years is just a coincidence. Ablab with a super chat. Sidebar, did you ever hear Barry White's cover of Just the Way You Are? Oh, no, but I'll check that out, Ablab. Not a big Barry White fan, but no, I'll check it out. Just the Way You Are. I'll check it out. Yeah. Yeah, Hank G says yesterday, right. And that was 50 years ago. Yesterday. Then that's a great song. And, Paul McCartney had a lot of songs that were he was the primary writer of, and of course John Lennon the primary writer of others. But ever since the Beatles broke up, Paul McCartney, if you believe that's really Paul McCartney out there, has had very few hit songs, maybe 2 or 3 in 50 years. 50 years. And he's been around a long time. So, yeah, there you go. New York Jets, FL, Chicago 1970 Tanglewood concert. What does this mean? Perhaps this is a riddle. Chicago 1970 Tanglewood concert. Anybody know what this means? I don't know. I don't know what this means, NY Jets FL. Is this a concert you went to and you enjoyed yourself? Phil Adams. Barry White was bigger in the UK than Billy Joel. Yeah, but Barry White was more of a singer, right? Barry White's not there writing songs, I don't think. Tell me if I'm wrong. The thing about Billy Joel is he's just an incredible artist. He's a songwriter. and the performer. And that's very rare to have somebody who's the primary songwriter come up with so many great songs. It's very, very difficult. Just the volume. I mean, he had 12 studio albums and so many classics on those albums, so many non-skippables. NY Jets FL, the band. Okay. What about it? What about the band? How many how many great unskippable songs did the band have? One, Down on Cripple Creek. Down on Cripple Creek. Meow, meow, meow. You are speaking of great bands. Okay, how many great unskippable songs did the band have? One, two, three. Ablab says Barry White was awesome with the orchestra. He wrote. Oh, okay. I guess I was wrong. He wrote and produced all his music and was a conductor. All right. What's Barry White's greatest song, Ablab? What's the greatest song Barry White ever wrote? All I know about Barry White is the vocal tunes. I admit I don't know much about Barry White. I kind of assumed he was just a singer. Huh. Okay. I didn't know that. Interesting. Interesting. Good old Barry White. But what's Barry White's greatest song? Like, what's his best song? What's his Purple Rain? You know what I mean? Chicago, the band, not the location. Chicago was also a band. What's Chicago's greatest song? These days, we got to think in terms of like playlists and being songs being skippable or not skippable. New York Jets floor. Let me rephrase. Chicago live concert, 1970 Tanglewood, epic live performance. Okay. Great. What do we do with that? Can we go back in time? Are we getting in the DeLorean, NY Jets FL? We're getting in the DeLorean, everybody. We're going back. We're going back in time. We got to go back to the future and then back to the past and then go all the way to 1970. We got to go to Chicago to a live concert, Tanglewood, whatever that means. And then we go and we see an epic live performance. All right, we're going back in time, everybody. We're getting in the DeLorean. Let's go. I say let's go, NY Jets FL. Can we go back and see this epic live performance by Chicago live concert? Somebody wants the bell. Can you hear the bell, Joe? I got it here. But sometimes you can hear it and sometimes you can't. What about Simon and Garfunkel? Okay, how many hits do they have? Bridge Under Troubled Waters, Sound of Silence. What else? Bridge Over Troubled Waters. That's a classic. What about The Sound of Silence? That's a classic. I guess I don't have the bell today. I'm ringing the bell. You guys aren't hearing it. NY Jets FL. You spoke of Barry White and Paul McCartney. Yes, we did. There goes. Oh, guess you guys are hearing it. The boxer. How does the boxer go? I think we should. I have half a mind to turn today's session into K Frank, but I don't know. If we're going back in time, somebody warned. Yeah, we should have traded that pick, Joe. Boy, oh boy. Imagine if we traded back that pick. Holy cow. And just stuck with Sammy D and seen if he could have done it. And if not, then just sign a free agent or something. We could have got a king's ransom. The 49ers would have traded us their whole franchise for that pick, man. Holy smokes. Because look what they did to get Trey freaking Lance. Imagine what they would have done to get Zach Wilson. They loved Zach Wilson. That was the reports anyways. Man, oh man. Ablab says too many to mention for for who? Barry White? You're my first, my last, my everything. Never gonna give you up. Isn't that Rick Roll? I can't get enough of your love. Is this Barry White stuff still? The boxer, the boxer. Yeah, Chicago had 21 top 10 singles. Yeah, but I'm talking about non-skippables. Some top 10 singles kind of. What's the best Chicago song of all time? Scarborough Fair. Oh yeah, Mrs. Robinson. Do do do, Mrs. Robinson. And also, what about Julio Down by the Schoolyard? There's like 4 or 5 songs from Simon and Garfunkel. But then you have to think about, do we include Paul Simon in the catalog of Simon and Garfunkel, or is it Simon and Garfunkel only, and maybe there's 4 or 5 or 6, and that's actually a lot considering how long they were together, which isn't a long time, because then Paul Simon said, "Get out of here, Garfunkel. I don't need you with your big hair." And I'm writing all the songs. All you're doing is adding some backing vocals, Garfunkel. Get out of here, he said to Art Garfunkel. So, do we include Paul Simon in the inventory of, let's say Simon, Simonianism? Like this, is it Paul Simon and Garfunkel, or is it just Paul Simon? How do we think about that? America. Oh yeah, Simon and Garfunkel. Yeah, they were probably pretty underrated in terms of the number of really classic, non-skippable tunes. I mean, how many albums did they even put out? 3? Yeah, I wanted to stick with Darnold, see if he could be. Yeah, that turned out to be the right thing to do. And even if he failed, you would have still had all those picks to build up the team for whatever quarterback you wanted to bring in. That was the way they should have thought about it, but they just really wanted Zach Wilson. The Jets traded back, then they could have drafted a lot of things, Harlan. That's the whole point. We could have built up the whole team. We could have got 3 first-round picks for him, seems like. Dolphins got 3, yeah. Indy Jet says Prince is still the GOAT. I mean, Prince, you think about it, Prince has maybe 7, 8, 9 non-skippables. But the thing that makes Prince amazing is his live performances. I mean, you talk about live performance, there's very few performances that are going to top Prince, especially with how consistent he was. Any kind of Prince concert, any time he performed was a special time instead of just like 1 or 2 times. He was incredible. Saturday in the Park. Saturday. Da da da. I wouldn't call that. Excuse me. I wouldn't call that non-skippable. You can call me Al. Yeah, that was Paul Simon. I mean, Paul Simon has had a lot of hits over the years, a lot of good songs. Ablad says the best Chicago song is 25 to 6 to 4. Oh, yeah. And Just You and Me. Yeah, so maybe Chicago has maybe 4 or 5 non skippables. Chicago. Who are the main people in Chicago? I don't even know. Harlan says he wanted to stick with Darnold too. Jets didn't know about him as a quarterback, and Jets would have owed him a lot of money. JD wanted to start all over. Yeah. Yeah, obviously that was. They just fell in love with Zach Wilson, unfortunately. When, from a team building perspective, trading that pick was the way to go. 5 studio albums, 13 compilation. Well, the compilations don't count. 5 studio album. 5 they did. Wow. Together they did 5? I'm surprised by that much. Well, on 5 studio albums, then, that's probably why they have more songs than I thought. Unskippable classic. We're talking about classic, unskippable. When they come on the playlist, you never skip them. We're talking the unskippables now. That's how I'd like to judge it. Unskippable comes on the playlist, you're listening, and you never ever skip it. There's some songs you like them, but you skip them sometimes. You're not in the mood. I'm talking about the unskippables. James Kennedy. Prince also wrote hits. Oh, yeah. He wrote a lot of songs for other people. A lot of songs for other people. He also wrote What If God Was One of Us by the lady Joan Osborne. She was like, these people are one hit wonder. Sinead O'Connor pretty much is a one hit wonder. Joan Osborne, I think her name is. What if God was one of us? Prince wrote that. And these people they have one hit and they didn't even write it. Prince wrote it. Sinead O'Connor, yeah. Prince is such a damn genius. Wish he was still with us. Peter Cetera. See, that's a name I know. Terry Kath, I don't know that name. Jojo says, I can hear the Prince influence. Yeah, but how are they? The thing about Prince is he wrote all his own music. He played all the instruments at a virtuoso level. I mean, guitar, he was out of this world, but he could play any instrument as good as just about anybody on earth. Piano, keyboards, drums, you name it. He could produce his albums himself if he wanted to. Sometimes he did. And I mean, and then on top of that, his live performances were legendary. Just incredible, incredible talent taken away from us way too soon. Yeah, Prince is definitely better than Billy Joel. But the thing about Billy Joel, um, probably had more consistency in terms of just really good songs. Now, it's totally different styles of music. But I mean, Joel had 12 studio albums, and I bet you the consistency of those studio albums, but the classic epic Prince songs were probably better than any Billy Joel song. Like Purple Rain. I mean, Purple Rain is one of the best songs of all time. It's hard to compete with that. Foreigner. Foreigner, another good band. James Kennedy. Prince also played. Yeah, right. Yeah. Ablab. What do you think about the polarizing wide receiver from Georgia? So I have Ablab. I have a video about this. So for those who are coming in late or maybe haven't been paying attention to the old Frankie channel, so I have a video about Malachi Corley that got over like 2,000 views already. I put out on Friday. So a lot of people are watching that video. So if you're curious about what Malachi Corley's going to do, I also have a video about Justin Fields, what I think he's going to do, and then the role that Arian Smith is going to play in our offense. That one's called Understanding Arian Smith's role in the new Jets offense or something like that. So check out that video, Ablab, and you'll see why I think we drafted him so high and why we prioritize speed as much as we did. We really just wanted to get the speed element, and he was the last one left with the kind of speed that we were looking for. So he'll have a role. It seems to me he'll have a role, but again, we got to see what kind of offense Engstrand rolls out there. But if he does what's logical, then he'll have a very important role in the offense, and it's really to help mostly Garrett Wilson. And then you got Phil Collins, Solo, and Genesis. Yeah, that's another similar situation. You got Genesis that had, I don't know, 4 or 5 unskippables. They were a good band. But then Phil Collins had just an incredible solo career. I mean, well, then Genesis kept getting back together. Now, Genesis probably has more songs than you think. Early Genesis, before Phil Collins split with them, sort of split with them, they had some good tunes. But then he went on his own. But then Genesis kept coming back and putting out pretty decent albums all the way through the 80s and 90s even. So, yeah. So, like, in the Phil Collins category, you probably should just put the Genesis songs, right? Like if you were going to make a Phil Collins playlist, just include all the Phil Collins songs and all the Genesis songs, all the good ones, right? That's how I would do it, probably. I mean, most of the Genesis songs are sung by Phil Collins, but some are sung by what's his name, that other singer they had before Phil Collins. Phil Collins was just the drummer at first. But then they were auditioning new singers, and Phil Collins would always do the guiding tracks. And then they were like, "You're singing these songs really well, Phil. Why don't you just sing?" And then he took over. Ablab says Terry Kath was an awesome guitarist. Oh, okay. One of Hendrix' faves. Bell. This is my musical instrument right here, Indie Jets. Ready? This is the musical instrument I can play. The old bell. We need more cowbell. Purple Rain album is one of the greats. No skips on that one. Computer Blue. You're not skipping that one, JoJo. Even the Purple Rain album, I think, has a skippable or two. Peter Gabriel, right? That's his name. Genesis with Peter Gabriel, right? And then he left. Peter Gabriel. Yeah, that's the name I forgot. Yep. Phil Adams says Genesis Gabriel came on stage wearing a dress with a fox's head on his head. Well, look, man, we gotta, you gotta get attention any way you can. I'm kind of tempted to turn this into K-Frank, but I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Too many copyright issues. Too many copyright issues. All right, that'll do it for today. Thanks for joining, everyone. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and/or joining the inner circle or the inner square or the inner triangle. We got all kind of levels. Oh, Ablab has a super chat. $9.99. Elton John versus Billy Joel. Well, here's the problem with Elton John. They're both excellent and have a lot of really good tunes. The problem with comparing Elton John is he doesn't write his own lyrics. How are you going to compare Elton John to Billy Joel when they're probably equivalent as piano players? You would think. It's hard to determine which one would be better. But he didn't write his own lyrics. Elton John. He's got another guy writing all his lyrics for him. Billy Joel writes all his lyrics, as far as I know. Most of them, anyway. So you'd have to say Billy Joel's the better artist. But like Elton John, so what should happen now, since Billy Joel has said he's open to collaborating now, he's open to putting out a new album now, now that this new song came out, and basically got universal acclaim. Everybody loves this song that he put out last year. But why doesn't one of the people he could collaborate with is Elton John, and or Sting, or these type of era people, Eric Clapton, get all these people in a room, get all these musical geniuses in a room, and see what you come up with, right? So I would say I would put Billy Joel over Elton John just for that reason, even though Elton John has a lot of good songs. It's hard to compare an artist who doesn't write his own lyrics to one that does, and that has a similar sort of career, right? That's the way I see it. All right, PC. Enjoy your Asian weather. I don't know how the weather is there in Asia, but good to know you're over there in Asia. We got Frankie people all over this damn Earth planet. We got people in the UK, people in Ireland, people in New Zealand, people in Australia, people in Asia. They're all over the place. They are all over the place. Elton and Bernie, what's his name? Bernie Taupin. He doesn't get a lot of press. He just stays behind the scenes, collects the checks. But it's always that kind of amazed me when I found that out about Bernie Taupin. It's like you're Elton John, you're singing all of these songs and you're emoting and you're singing. Teachers and people always tell you, you have to really feel the music in order for it to come out properly. Like if you ever watch these reaction videos, go watch a reaction video of these vocal teachers watching the live performance of Eddie Vedder and Pearl Jam singing Black, that song Black. Watch these vocal coaches react. They're blown away. But they always say, like, you have to feel the content of the words that you're singing in order to really transmit that to the audience. Well, Elton John didn't write any of those lyrics. He transmitted it to those audiences just fine. So I think Elton John is like an example of that piece of advice and not necessarily being correct. But then on the other side of that argument, if you see Eddie Vedder performing that song live, Black, from the first album, first Pearl Jam album, he is so into that song when he sings it in that on that stage that it's almost he almost looks possessed. It is so he embodies that advice that singing teachers will give you. But then again, then you have on the other side of that, you have Elton John, who has no connection to the words at all. He's just singing whatever Bernie tells him to sing, apparently. So, yeah, different strokes for different folks. NY Jets FL is just throwing out bands now. AC/DC, they're from down under. All right, so I don't know. Maybe one of these Sundays we'll just do a total K Frank show. Like we'll turn this channel into K Frank, which is better than K Rock, and we'll just talk music all day. Like, cause yeah, what are we gonna talk about next Sunday? What are the Jets had more time where they threw passes over the middle in shorts and t-shirts. Oh wow, yeah. So at some point we may have to turn this channel back into K Frank and just rock it out, man. Just may have to. Just may have to. I don't know. I'm just saying, may have to happen. We'll see. But hopefully we'll get this studio cleaned up so it doesn't look like a piece of crap anymore. And we'll do it that way. But with that being said, we'll call it for the day. Thanks for joining. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you're new, or give it a thumbs up if you're already a subscriber, or join the inner circle, the inner triangle, the inner square. There's different price levels now that I changed it. You can get in on the El Cheapo level, the middle level, or the high support level. Any level you want, you got it. Thanks for joining. And check out those previous videos. That video that I did on Malachi Corley, I put it out on Friday, has like 2,000 views on it. Normally my videos get like 200, 300. That one's got 2,000. So apparently people are liking that one. I don't know why, but check that out. Check that one out, and I'll see you guys next week.